Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 4058. Today's date is May 17, 2026. It's been almost like a morning at 8:08 a.m. By the way, it's very hot in here. Okay, like I cannot able to be tell you this is like a brutally very hot summer. Yeah. The like almost like a temperature it went to almost like a 44 degrees celsius, 45 degrees celsius. That is no joke, dude. Like literally survive in 44 degrees celsius is just like brutal, like really brutal. Right now it's a morning, okay, yeah, 8 a.m, but still it's really warm. like like right now temperature would be almost like a 39 degrees celsius. Yeah, morning at 8 a.m, 39 degrees celsius. And also if you are thinking that during the night it also went really high, like urbanization. Okay, like basically it's this thing that na ki heat never really come from the sun, sometimes heat came from the bottom too. How? Like urbanization. Okay, have you understand the concept? If you don't, let me kind of like explain to you what is at least this thing. So basically let's take a kind of like a simply this book. Okay, yeah, so let's take kind of like this book as a metal piece. Okay, yeah, this is kind of like assembly a foot long. Okay, yeah, a kind of like assembly metal piece. Okay, yeah. So basically it's this thing, when the sunlight is actually hit on the surface is getting warmer. Okay, yeah. And every like basically not only just a metal but kind of like a asphalt or everything is kind of like a became hotter. Okay, yeah. Then what is actually happened during the day, it kind of like a every always kind of like a sunlight is actually attack on the surface. Okay, then sunset actually happened, the surface is already warm up. Okay, so surface is actually emitting the heat. Okay, yeah. So during the night it is kind of like emitting heat from the surface, and it is even more brutal than day, because during the day sun is a kind of like a far much away from you, but the surface is literally close to you, you are standing on the surface. So you are kind of like a somebody that key feeling that warm kind of like acts around you and things and that. Oh yeah. And if you are at the home, and this is like all the walls are kind of like act like that. Okay, the heat is kind of like emitting a thermodynamics law. Okay, very easy to understand. So that's the kind of like a things. That's why during the night I also feel like almost like a 39 40 degrees celsius. Yeah, during the night too. Okay, yeah, it's not just a kind of like some temperature from the sun, sometimes temperature came from the surface too. So it's very hot in here. Oh boy, like really hot. I'm kind of like waiting for monsoon when it come. Monsoon will gonna come like basically news media says that ki probably June, like 5th or 7th of June, monsoon will gonna come. Like basically is this thing, a monsoon actually came from the bottom of the India, means like that south of India. Like basically first of all it came from the Kerala, Tamil Nadu, okay, which will kind of like arrive at the end of the May, okay, probably 29 May, okay. I'm living in Maharashtra. Maharashtra is a state, by the way. India is a country. Maharashtra is a state. Tamil Nadu, Kerala are the state too. Okay, yeah. There are almost like a 29 states in India. So basically, the monsoon came from the bottom. First of all, it came to the Kerala, Tamil Nadu. It will gonna arrive at the end of May, means this month of. And in the Maharashtra, it will gonna arrive at kind of like a June 7, 6 or 7. Really, I'm waiting for the kind of like a monsoon to come, and just like this brutal heat is just like, oh my god. But also let me tell you one thing is that now after the monsoon, the summer is not going to end yet. Okay, so if you are thinking that, okay, let me tell you one thing, in India weather are kind of like a very much like a very like a different. Okay, I'm telling you from my experience point of perspective. I'm not really sure how much wrong or how much right I am. During the rain, okay, yeah, the rain is like a basically how is actually rain actually happening. Okay, so basically the June, like a like basically it says that ki June 7 the rain will started. Okay, so June and like a 7th of June, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, like basically is this thing, the beginning like till the 15th of June the rain will continuously doing rain. Okay, continuously doing rain. Okay, for almost like a week or two. Okay, and then after that summer started. In a rainy season, summer started, and that summer is even more brutal. Why? Because of that, after the rain, when you get the sunlight, that sunlight is like a like so brutal. Okay, yeah. And then after that, like then sometime rain actually happened. Okay, like the frequency of rain is a kind of like a very less. Like at the beginning, the rain is intensity was too much. Like let's just say this is the kind of like a rainy season. The beginning intensity was too much, literally too much. Like a day and night rain is actually happening. Okay, yeah. Then middle part of the section are very empty. Like sometime rain happened, after 2 days rain happened, after 2-3 days rain happened, and basically at the end of the kind of like a summer, like a probably maybe like a September, at the end of September, it get very heavy rain. Okay, yeah. So basically heavy rain gets from kind of like a beginning of June and kind of like end of the September. It's kind of like get heavy, and in middle part is a kind of like a just tiny kind of like a rain. Sometime it get rain, sometime it did not, and things like that. And sometime it did not get rain. It's a very heavy sunlight, and that sunlight is like more brutal because the it create a humidity, and humidity kind of like something even more. Yeah, it just yes. It's not really that like a hotter, but it felt hotter because humid. Okay, so yeah, India is a very hot country by the way, and we are really hot people. Okay, yeah, whatever. Should we jump to the question? All right, let's go to this. By the way, yesterday I haven't really recorded artifact. Yesterday I record artifact, but during the night I haven't really recorded artifact. The reason was that there is a construction actually happening. The borewell actually happening. What's a borewell? Like basically a machine, a borewell machine, kind of like a dig the hole. Okay, dig the hole for almost like a 200-300 feet. Why? Because of the heat. Okay, yeah. There is no water at all. Okay, so basically everyone are kind of like pumping the groundwater, so that's why they are kind of like putting the boring and things and that and that. Like it's very like yeah, very hotter. Like basically we have well, we don't really have boring, we have well, and well is a kind of like okay, good. It's been almost like a 25 feet down. The water supply is really good, but still is this thing that excessive use of water is actually happening right now, because in my home the construction actually going on, so there is a lot of water and things and that and that. Boy, oh boy, it's a very hot in here. Yeah, like let me tell you one thing na, this month I get electric bill almost like a 3,000 rupees, 3,500, sorry, 3,700 rupees bill, electric bill, 3,700 rupees. That's a really massive bill, and we don't really use the AC, by the way, we just use the cooler, and still you get kind of like a 3,700 bill. Yeah, we are living in very crazy time. Whatever, let's just jump into the question. All right. Okay, this is very big book. Yeah, like basically handling this big book, it really required a kind of like a lot of effort, because this book is a kind of like a 500 pages and things like that and that. It's not really that you open the book and without any support, it's just not. All right, the question is, how will you review audio at the scale? That's a really good question. Okay, so basically how exactly is this question, and why am I asking this question to myself? Okay, I wanted to build an app called My Artifact. What exactly is this application? Well, basically is this thing na ki when you write the diary every single day, you cannot able to be write the diary the way that you wanted to. The reason is that the way that you think is much more faster than way that you write. But why does we kind of like a write really slow? Because of that ki it really required a lot of constraint. You need a pen, you need a paper, you need a convenience. And after all those things, spelling mistake and all those things, and also writing really required effort. Oh yeah. And when it kind of like a takes really effort, the emotion are not really flow as smoothly as possible, is it? Oh yeah. Writing kind of like a became really flow when you are kind of like a writing too much, and when you are really experienced in writing, then your writing became kind of like a became really flow. But if you are kind of like somebody is just saying that he just like never really write, or maybe write maybe sometimes in a day or things and that, writing became more become more kind of like a stressful, and you cannot able to be print out your all your thoughts in a paper. Okay, because there is a lot of things, and that's why very less people are kind of like a writing a diary, writing a journal and things and that and that. Well, what if instead of writing a diary, what if we could record a diary, like an audio recorded diary? I call that artifact. The stuff that you are kind of like listening right now, this is my artifact. My artifact episode number 4058. Okay. I am doing this thing. I'm doing this thing for past 11 years. I'm doing this thing every single day. Writing a diary is a self-reflection process, same as recording a diary is a self-reflection process. Because of this process, I actually connect with myself. I actually connect with myself, and the amount of value that I get is just like, yeah, the person that I am today and the person that I will become tomorrow, it is all because of artifact. Artifact changed my life. The amount of value that artifact add into me, I realized that I wanted to share this process to the other people so that they will supposed to be get the same value. But how do I supposed to share this kind of like a process to the people? By building an application. So my application is a somewhat something like a YouTube platform. In the YouTube platform, you actually upload your video, other people sees your video. Same thing, artifact is a kind of like a thing that now you record your artifact, upload your artifact, other people kind of like a listen your artifact. That's the kind of like a process. One thing is that I want kind of like a provide the privacy that no user will kind of like a know who they are and what they are and what is actually their real name. Like basically my real name is Saurabh Authare, but my artifact handle name would be Prozac 1943 or something else, so that I would kind of like kept the privacy hidden. Very much essential. So this is my application. Before I wanted to build this application, I wanted to know all the possible consequences, and how do I wanted to know all the possible consequences. So I went to ChatGPT. I kind of like said that I wanted to build this application. This is my idea. I wanted to know all the possible worst possible consequences that will gonna happen and how do I supposed to overcome that. Suggest me at least like 100 question about this thing. So ChatGPT kind of like suggest me hundreds of questions regarding about my app idea, regarding about all the possible consequences that I might gonna face in the future. Okay, yeah. So it kind of like suggests me hundreds of questions, and this is one of those questions. By the way, the question actually in the mobile phone, but while I was recording, I cannot do anything, so that's why I wrote question in book. All right. So basically, this thing, the question is that how do I kind of like something wait? How do I remove all the audio? Okay. How will I reveal maybe manage would be kind of like a much more better. How will I manage the audio at scale? Okay, how will I manage would be much more better. How do I supposed to manage all those audio at scale? Okay, what exactly is this thing? Okay, so imagine, okay, how do you supposed to be kind of like a sorting all those kind of like a something video or all those kind of like audio artifact? You as a person cannot able to be sort all those things. You need a kind of like a machine. You need a kind of like a something that algorithm to kind of like a manage everything. Okay, so how do you supposed to manage almost like a thousands of artifact at the same time? Because what is gonna happen that when the people are kind of like a recording artifact, thousands of people are kind of like a recording artifact. And how do you supposed to be categorize all those artifacts? How do you supposed to be kind of like a sort those artifacts? How do you supposed to be kind of like a flag such artifact that is kind of like a create hate speeches and things and that and that? How are you supposed to do this thing? Okay, so basically is this thing, let me kind of like tell you how it really happened. Okay, so basically is this thing, the user is a kind of like open my application, they will kind of like hit the record button. Okay, as soon as they hit the record button, there is a privacy screen actually appear, sorry, warning screen actually appear. In the warning screen there is actually appear that do not mention your name, do not mention anything about your personal detail, nothing really at all. Okay, yeah. After you have to click the understood, then after that recording happened, artifact recording happened. Okay, you cannot able to be upload artifact from other drive. No, you have to be use your internal recorder, and that only kind of like a simply upload the kind of like a, that only allow you to upload artifact. If you kind of like a record it externally and kind of like upload, it does not gonna happen. Why? Privacy feature. Because when you upload the, when you kind of like upload the file, it also come with the metadata, and that metadata kind of like simply create a chaos, because if tomorrow might be things will happen worse, because that metadata connect with your file, and it will not gonna kind of like extract that much easily when you record it kind of like externally. Okay, so that is a kind of like a create a chaos, that is kind of like a create another pressure for me to extract that metadata from your audio file. Okay, so this is not gonna like, this is very kind of like a it adds so much amount of kind of like a hassle for me. So it is really essential that user should supposed to be record from my recorder, not from externally. Okay, so they will kind of like use their mobile to kind of like record everything, record kind of like assembly audio and things and that. Now people are kind of like recording things. Now because of this warning screen, people already knew that they shouldn't supposed to mention the name and things and that, which is kind of like a really good. But spur of the moment, they might gonna mention the name or things and that. So in that situation, what will gonna happen? So basically is this thing, after artifact recorded, that artifact is actually saved in their local memory. It will not gonna went to public, it will gonna save into the local memory. Okay, local memory, mobile memory and things and that. Now what exactly happen if the user wanted to publish this artifact? That user have to be kind of like a simply, it will kind of like a save into the draft. Now user can go into the draft and they will kind of like a listen first artifact. Okay, yeah. Let me tell you one thing, artifact will not gonna went public if the user will not gonna listen. User have to be listen his artifact. Why am I kind of like doing this thing? Is because of that na ki when you record artifact, at the spur of the moment you mention, you talk a lot, because you are kind of like a dumping your thoughts and things and that. Okay, and at the spur of the moment we mention a lot of stuff, and things and that. But when we try to listen our own artifact, we realize that ki how dumb we sound. Okay, this is the one thing. Another thing is that na ki how wrong we are, because our thoughts are very fragile, very messy, very unfiltered. Okay, and that is a kind of like a create a chaos. Like if those thoughts are kind of like a went into the public, it might create a chaos. Okay, yeah. Like basically this thing, as I mentioned, my artifact is not meant to be kind of like a spread hate speeches and things and that. But basically this thing, not everyone try to do intentionally, but unintentionally we did this thing. And when we are trying to say, we just don't really like when we try to say, we just unfiltered. But when we try to listen our own artifact, then we realize that, oh fuck, like this shouldn't supposed to be, I shouldn't supposed to talk like this. Okay, yeah. So this is a kind of like something very brutal. Okay, so basically user should supposed to be listen his own artifact. Okay, almost like a 95% they have to be read. Okay, also you cannot able to be skip and things and that. You can able to be kind of like a basically speed up the process. Okay, but basically you cannot able to be kind of like you cannot able to upload until you cannot able to upload even you don't really listen the artifact. You have to listen the artifact 95%, and then after then artifact will kind of like upload it into the platform. Okay. Okay, so basically this thing, if the user will kind of like somebody listening his artifact, and he realized that the stuff that he mentioned, it does not have any kind of like a noun. Okay, so okay, basically what exactly happened? Okay, let me kind of like tell you what exactly happened. Okay, so when the user will kind of like record the artifact, that artifact went through process. Okay, that process means like that artifact is actually kind of like convert that text into the convert that audio into the text, and if the user kind of like mentions some sort of name and things and that, it trim out those segment automatically. Like basically my name is Saurabh Autare, so it says my name is beep, so it add over beep over there, or remove that particular segment or mute that particular segment. Okay, so this would be kind of like a much more better. Okay, one thing. Another thing is that after that, user should supposed to be listen his own artifact. After he listen, and he also wanted to kind of like simply edit or may remove some sort of things. He has that thing, he has a kind of like a things that na ki he could edit his artifact, that ki this part of the section I don't want, select that particular kind of like a things. I don't know how do it's supposed to be happen, but kind of like a somebody by the subtitle it kind of like a select the text and kind of like a delete. Then after you delete that particular section will kind of like a trim down. This is everything actually happening local. It's not actually happening kind of like a somebody drive and things or not local, it's actually happening local. And okay, let me tell you one thing how this will gonna happen locally. Like basically it's this thing that na ki okay, editing will gonna happen locally, but what about the converting audio into the text? You need a kind of like a AI, right? Yeah, like basically it's this thing that na ki yes, basically the like like dude, yeah, that's a really important thing. Yeah, like basically how does kind of like a conversion actually happen? Like basically audio into the text, this is a AI process na, converting subtitle. So for this process artifact should supposed to be upload in the cloud or maybe kind of like a things, and then after that this process actually happen. Oh, that's a really good thing. Okay, because in the mobile phone I cannot able to do this thing, so how do I supposed to make sure that? Well, instead of okay, let me tell you one thing. Why do I really require converting audio into the text? Okay, basically it's this thing na ki okay, like if in the future if the mobile are so powerful that AI kind of like a task is actually happen in the mobile phone, then this would be really good. But if such thing will not gonna happen, then what do I supposed to do is that ki probably maybe is this thing that ki I don't know how do I supposed to do this thing at the moment. Okay, probably is this thing that transcription will gonna happen. If the transcription actually happen, then like I don't know, there are kind of like a multiples of kind of like assembly AI models. They don't really require to kind of like a go into the like they don't really require to upload the files and things, and that transcription happen automatically on the mobile phone probably. Like a Samsung Galaxy AI is kind of like a happening, like a real time transcription actually happening. So in that situation probably I don't know how do I supposed to do this thing, but transcription should supposed to be happen, because after the transcription the user will kind of like a select the text or things and that and kind of like a trim that particular segment. I don't know how it's supposed to be happen, but this should supposed to be happen, because technical point of perspective I don't know at the moment, but probably this would supposed to be happen. Now after the trim down, okay, the user kind of like a confirm that ki okay, like I trim down everything that I think that ki my privacy might gonna broke, and after the remaining part of the artifact will kind of like a went into the public. Okay, also when the artifact went to the public, there is a process that you have to select the title. Okay, select the title, or maybe something that key probably AI would kind of like a something that key give you title. It give you AI kind of like give recommendation that probably this title would be much more better for visibility and things and that, whatever it's that thing. So this kind of like a title. And also is this thing that key emotion button is really essential to choose. Okay, like basically is this thing, whatever the your artifact is, that whatever the topic that you talk about this thing, what kind of like a emotion that is represent, happy, sad, inspirational, like whatever. Okay, yeah, if you don't really have any kind of like it's a kind of like a tagging the what kind of like a somebody artifact is about what. Okay, even if that emotion button is not really associate, then you could create the another emotion button. Like basically let's just say I'm talking about the filmmaking, so basically I would kind of like a tag as a filmmaking, and filmmaking tag is also things and that. So this would be kind of like a much more better to kind of like a sorting the artifact before it kind of like a went into the public, before it kind of like a went to server. Artifact is kind of like a sort themselves by user actually sort themselves that what exactly artifact about is kind of like a filmmaking and things and that after this thing, and then hit publish. After it publish, okay, basically is this thing that ki artifact will kind of like a went into the cloud. Now another thing is that na ki basically is this thing that ki I don't know, this part of the segment is a kind of like a very technical for me. I'm not really sure how do I supposed to be kind of like a do this thing, because it's a very much technical. I don't know about how it actually happened, because if it went to the server, then how metadata is actually kind of like a things, how do I supposed to make sure the privacy and kind of like a sorting and things and that I don't know about that. It's a like a little bit of way too technical. Probably is this thing that na ki the people I might gonna hire, they will kind of like do this thing, but this will not gonna happen at the beginning. Beginning means what? Like right now I'm building application, and I will not gonna kind of like somebody do all those kind of like a server and things and that. Like literally artifact will kind of like somebody like a transcription is also not gonna happen at the beginning. Why? Because of that, at the beginning I'm the only one kind of like building the application. I don't really have any funding, or I don't really have any kind of like stuff. I don't really have nothing really at all, na. Okay. When I have the resources, I will gonna do this thing. But right now I don't really have any resources. So basically, is this thing I have to be kind of like a provide very less feature at the moment. Okay. And basically at the beginning I might have very less user. The biggest issue for me is that key kind of like how do I supposed to convince user to kind of like a record artifact, and that's a very hard thing. Like when the user will kind of like increase, obviously I will have all the kind of like a feature and things and that to kind of like a transcription, edit and things and that. But at the beginning probably this might not, like at the beginning, like what exactly happened that key user will kind of like somebody listen his artifact first. Okay. Obviously is this thing that key if the user wanted to trim that particular segment, I will gonna add the trimming segment at the beginning probably, something like that. But it kind of like a makes me like basically at the beginning it's kind of like a became more kind of like I'm not gonna kind of like have this edit feature at the moment at the beginning. Why? Because like at the beginning what exactly happened, that's one of the biggest problem is that key user will not gonna share the artifact, and having those multiples of steps to publish the artifact, it kind of like a create constraint to not publish the artifact to the user. And that's the kind of like a things. Okay, so at the beginning I might not have this kind of like a multiple transcription feature and things and that I would have a kind of like a warning screen that they shouldn't supposed to be kind of like a mention the name and things and that. But even if the at the spur of the moment they might gonna mention, I don't really have any kind of like a something that key like a basically a method to kind of like a somebody stop all those things at the beginning. Okay, but even if that particular person will kind of like upload the artifact, that artifact will kind of like somebody that key have like if that particular person mention his name, that name will not gonna trim out. But soon as I will have a technology and kind of like a people or resources and things and that artifact is already in the cloud, then after some sort of time, like probably year or maybe 2 year, or I don't know when I will have resources, I will kind of like use these resources to kind of like trim out all the previous artifact which kind of like mention the name and things and that. Okay, so yeah, at the beginning now I shouldn't supposed to be kind of like do this thing, dude. But that's the kind of like a biggest the privacy flaws na. Yeah, but the problem is that na ki the biggest issue is not the kind of like a giving the privacy. The biggest issue is that ki how do I convince people to record artifact, because that is a very most bottleneck thing. Okay, because it's a very new form of kind of like a social media platform, and people might not gonna believe that's a true. Okay, so how so beginning 5 year is a very it's not really possible to kind of like convince people to record artifact. That's a kind of like a true. And my biggest challenge is this, to convince people, because after I convince people now, then after that everything happens so smoothly. Then people will kind of like people will understand the what exactly value that they're getting from the artifact. People are kind of like doing automatically. It just I don't really have to kind of like put anything and that. So basically at the beginning I will not gonna have this kind of like that many privacy feature at the beginning. I mean I have kind of like simply username. Okay, I already mentioned multiples of privacy feature, but still again mention the random username, the profile picture, like you cannot able to upload the avatar, you have to select and things and that. Warning screen. Okay, another thing is that na ki a warning screen, and kind of like somebody user should supposed to be kind of like somebody listen his own artifact episode first. Okay, and probably edit. Okay, yeah, like edit the things, but still edit, I'm not really sure about the edit will gonna happen. Transcription and things and that will not, I don't know about this particular stuff at the moment. At the beginning it will gonna happen in the further future. Okay, but these are kind of like a privacy things that I will gonna provide at the beginning. throughout the time, then I will kind of like implement all other privacy feature and things and that, which is very much essential for me to not to implement that, because it create a constraint for user to not to publish their artifact and things and that. So that is a kind of like a things. Okay, now another thing, how do I supposed to kind of like manage almost like a thousands of artifact at the same time? How do I supposed to things? Still I'm not really sure about giving the answer, because it's a very technical question, and probably it really required to understanding the context regarding about how things actually happen in server and how the process actually happened. I'm not really sure about that thing, but at the beginning, it just kind of like a directly whatever the people will kind of like a record, it will kind of like a listen by other people at the beginning, and when I will get the resources and things and that the process, the kind of like a things that key, basically the privacy and trim out segment will gonna happen. But making sure that key user should not supposed to mention the name, that's why I have this kind of like a basic privacy feature that do not mention the name and things and that would be kind of like a much more better. All right, so this is it. Thank you.